He's the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Urban Meyer back on the program. Happy New Year, Coach. How are you?
Good to be with you again, Dan. Happy New Year to you.
I wanted to ask you about offenses and go back to when you were at Utah with spread offenses, because we're seeing NFL teams trying to have a variation of this. Chip Kelly, if he brings his style to the NFL. When you were, and I don't know if you were the originator of it, but you certainly get a lot of credit, and deservedly so, but what were you trying to do in college at Utah with Alex Smith with the spread offense that was different than everybody else?
Well, Dan, I first started at Bowling Green. I was an assistant at Notre Dame and went down to Louisville and started studying a guy named Scott Linehan.
Yeah.
And I started asking about certain blitzes, like a free safety blitz that was a real problem. And he looked at me and goes, we haven't had a safety blitz in 4 years. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, look at these formations. We just sat there, and it was actually Dan Mullen and myself went down to Louisville, planned on staying a day, stayed for 4 days. We went bought a toothbrush and just kept going back for 4 straight days and filled books with ideas, concepts, and came back. And that was the time that I knew that if I had a chance to become a head coach, that's an offense I was going to run. And sure enough, we put it in at Bowling Green and had great success with a guy named Josh Harris, who was a Heisman candidate. And then went to, and then we got Alex. Alex was different; wasn't as good as runner, so that's where we added the spread option, where we also had the read game. But instead of running the ball, he would pitch it off the next defender. So that kind of shocked a lot of people because no one was really doing the spread option part of it, and that. We had a lot of success with it.
But what are we doing now with NFL teams, with Colin Kaepernick, with RG3? Is it the same thing, or is there a new wave coming into the NFL?
Last week we had, because we're not in a bowl game, we had all kinds of time. So we took the first 3 days. I had the offensive staff we put together, because I kept hearing, because I haven't watched much pro football, and I kept hearing it, and I saw some highlights, and it looked exactly like the stuff that we run. And so we had the RG3 film, we did the Russell Wilson film, we did Carolina with Cam Newton, and we did the quarterback at San Francisco, and it's phenomenal. It's pure spread offense. That means you're reading one defender, and the quarterback is in essence a ball carrier if the defender reacts a certain way. And the San Francisco team was the one that really, I just sat there because they actually do something we don't do, and I can assure you we're going to do it next year. That's how good they were, and I just give credit to guys like Harbaugh and Coach Harbaugh and some of those other guys that are. Mike Shanahan's a guy that's really appealing to me as far as a coach. That here's a guy that when he took a year off from football, I remember him coming down to Florida, and he has friends down there, and he asked if he could come stay 2 days, and he sat in a film room for 2 straight days, just watching film, asking questions. And to see him doing it now with RG3, I just think that's a brilliant coach.
But you're also seeing these guys, and we've seen guys who use their legs, and eventually you have to stop using your legs as often as you do, whether it's Vince Young or Michael Vick or McNabb, and even these guys now. Eventually you have to become, it's like Steve Young eventually had to become a very good pocket quarterback. So you can run the spread, but how long can you run it in that kind of blueprint that you see right now with these guys?
That's the $1 million question. You have these, franchise type players, and they're taking the hits that in the NFL it's big time hits, and a lot of them I've seen them teach them how to get down, and those are the questions that can't be answered because no one's done it long enough. But that is a concern. I think that's a concern, like you said, anytime. I remember. From all the way back to Joe Namath, used to be an excellent scrambler, and it's just his body, the wear and tear. You get older and you get hit, and how long can you go taking shots like that? That's going to be the question, and how long people can use that style offense.
He's Urban Meyer, head coach of the Ohio State University, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Ever offered a head coaching job in the NFL?
No.
But you were never. There's nothing on your resume with the NFL. Why not?
I got a couple phone calls early in my Florida days, asking if I'd be interested, and I love college football, and I made that decision that's where I wanted to be. But
what makes you? I'm not going to say nervous, but would concern you or hesitant about coaching in the NFL?
Oh, I like the age group. I'm not. There was a time where I made some phone calls and I had some conversations about it, but never to the point where I got very serious about it. I'm intrigued with the collegiate atmosphere. I don't know much about pro football. You start talking about salary caps and those type of things, and I'd much rather talk about recruiting and the part that I love about college football, and that's the development of young players. So I just never had an interest.
But growing up, you never thought about coaching the Cleveland Browns?
I really didn't. I thought about coaching the Ohio State Buckeyes. I've always been that way.
Were you, but Woody Hayes, is that your, I don't know, did your dad sort of say, this is who to watch or learn from or listen to?
Well, I grew up in the 10-year war, so it was Bo Schembechler and Woody Hayes, and you remember the days there was only 3 television channels, there was only 1 or 2 newspapers, and that's all I knew. So, yeah, there was Notre Dame, Ohio State, and our rivals from up north. That was it. That's all I knew.
Last time you talked to Tim Tebow?
Last week. I talk to him every week, and really, really anxious to see what happens.
But where does he go? What's it take for him to be successful again?
Well, I think that's a hard question, Dan. I think obviously the right environment, right situation, and he's not a traditional quarterback. But the good thing is the National Football League is showing that there are some people that like to try to move the ball, doing a variety of different things, and he's been proven to do that. So I think it's just getting in the right system where he can go play.
The thing I'm looking at is you got to have a coach who commits to that style, and you have to commit to that style. And the Jets obviously never did. I didn't think it was the right mix in the beginning, but is Jacksonville the situation where you look at and you say, all right, he can go back home and he can thrive?
I just don't know enough about I hope so. I keep hearing that. Tim doesn't know either. I asked him, I said, what are you hearing out there? He goes, we're just, because it was last week and they were just finishing up, so he hasn't heard where he's going to go either. If he has no idea what's going to happen. But what you said is correct. You have to go commit yourself from the top down and say, this is what we're going to do. And that's right. I went out and watched Chip Kelly's practice the other day. And Chip Kelly is first of all, he's a good friend. Second of all, what makes him special as a coach is not the fact that he runs an up-tempo, no-huddle offense. It's the fact that he has everyone in that organization believing from the top down. That's the way to win a game. And I watched that practice. I walked away saying, now that was incredible. Because from the managers to the defense coordinator to all the way up to the head football coach, there is one way of doing it, and they believe in it. And you're right. If the organization doesn't, if half of them believe in it, half of them don't, you're not going to make it.
How a matchup against Notre Dame and Alabama, this current Ohio State team that went undefeated? How do you think you'd fare?
Well, early in the year, I'd say no chance. Middle of the year, I'd say probably not. By the end of the year, I'd say we'd be right in the middle of it.
Who do you think's better?
I think Alabama probably has a little more depth, but I think the first team of Notre Dame, great scheme, and they play real hard. So I think it's going to be very close. But top to bottom, I think Alabama's better. Your first 22, I think Notre Dame's right with them.
How weird is it to not be in a bowl game, but here you are promoting the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl?
Well, I got this phone call. I'm not sure if anyone's seen it yet, but it's going to show tonight. They asked me to take part in a welcome home party for the military, and I went to Kuwait a couple years ago with the USO trip, and just my admiration for what these men and women do, like most of us, it's off the charts. And they said we're going to surprise them, have a welcome home party. There'll be 15,000 people in the stadium. Coach Bowden is going to be on one side, you're on the other side. Kurt Warner is going to be your quarterback. Marcus Allen will be there. Owen Wilson will be there. And it's nothing more than just saying thank you for what you guys do. And it was a no-brainer if we could make it work in my schedule. And obviously without a bowl game, I got more time than I've ever had in my life. So I said, absolutely, let's go do it.
That's awesome.
It was phenomenal.
Go to facebookpage.com/Tostitos, I think, for more information on this. The Homecoming Party Bowl, Tostitos Homecoming Party Bowl with Coach talking. That's going to air tonight, you said?
On halftime at the Fiesta Bowl.
What bowl game will you be in next year?
Just trying to get to 1-0.
Just trying to get to 1-0?
That's it.
Well, good to visit with you again, Coach. Thanks for joining us.
I always enjoy it, Dan. Thank you.
All right, Urban Meyer, Head coach.